Morning campers, coffee time. With MCT oil today. Is there a fake alien invasion coming? Well, it's a big subject, isn't it? I mean, there's a ton of new sighting videos released from Miami, Florida, all over the internet. There's Congresswoman just been on Joe Rogan talking about the Book of Enoch and interdimensional beings and UFOs and everything else. There's the internet's flooded with stuff at the moment about this. And of course you've got all the strange drone sightings in America last year that Donald Trump says he'd love to tell you about, but he can't. Why can't he? But he says they're not, nothing to worry about. Interesting, isn't it? Now, if you read Cab on Twitter, X, he great account, and I read his posts with interest because a lot of what he says correlates with my own feelings. I don't claim to be in touch with Pleiadians like he does, but it is interesting that he's saying that Trump is in contact with Pleiadians and knows what they are. And a lot of this, oh no, Donald Trump's a fucking deep stater. Well, you got to keep more of an open, those people who go black and white all the time need to keep a little bit more of an open mind. And I do have to continue saying that I am an apocalyptimist, which, to explain, is apocalypse is the Greek word for unveiling, right, which is where we are. And I'm an optimist about the outcome, despite the fact that the human race has just been through a genocide. But a failed genocide, in my opinion. So anyway, in terms of the UFOs, why am I saying, are we going to come under a false alien attack? Well, very simply, if you don't know any of this, then just, if you hear something I say and you don't know what it means, please go and do your own research and have a look. But there's a thing called Project Bluebeam or Project Blue Book. And don't go, you don't know the difference. It doesn't matter. The point is, if you look at either of those, you'll find that there has been a plan for a fake alien invasion that a lot of people in the conspiracy world have known about for years and decades. And it involves holographic technology. And I actually think that technology was disclosed in Spider-Man Far From Home, when you had Mysterio character doing using holograms and drones inside the holograms to make the monsters in that film appear real to the public, to fool them. Is that possible? 100%. I think holograms were used on 9/11, which is 25 years ago now. There's no question that technology exists, but is that what's actually happening? Well, apart from all the sightings that have been going on, there is, of course, 3i Atlas, which is this huge thing in space. And space doesn't exist, Mark. It's water under a dome. Whatever. The point is that it's all over the place in terms of the, people talking about this. And you've got to keep an open mind. Kerry Cassidy just did a video with somebody who said they're communicating with it, and it's saying stuff like, we're on our way and we mean you no harm, chill out, mate. Aliens, chill out, mate, it's cool. Yeah, we're just coming for a sniff. We just want to sniff the human race. I often do shows with Janine Morizot, who's otherwise known as Tarot by Janine, because I find tarot cards an interesting way of reading stuff, and she's amazing at it. Oh, she never gets anything right. Shut up. you know, because you can't trust what's in the media, right? We know this. So wiseacres like me pop up giving their interpretations of things. And why do I feel like I can talk about this even? Well, you know, as far as I'm concerned, I'm just an ordinary bloke, but I grew up in England, and my whole life I was looking up at the stars. It just always did, and I always dreamt of flying. In fact, my first job, proper job, was as a pilot. I could actually fly a plane before I could drive, and I'm a working class kid. I just found a way of doing it as a kid in the cadets. Did my first loop-the-loop when I was 13. I love flying, you know, and I had that recurring dream, you know, when you just walk. For me, it was like walking between 2 rows of trees in a big park, and then I just sort of gently took off. And and that's a very common dream for a lot of people. Why is it in our dreams? Is it because 97% of our DNA is not junk, it's just deactivated, and when it gets activated, you're going to fly? Why not? There's tons of stories about Tibetan monks meditating and levitating. That's flying, isn't it? Levitating. Is that flying? Yeah, I suppose it could be defined as flying. So is it beyond possibility that that's happening? I don't think it is. I know from my own live talks around around America in particular, where I asked people if, you know, we toured 17 cities in the States in 2022. And I asked people in the room if they'd noticed that they were more psychic. And 80% of the room's hands went up in pretty much every location where I asked a question. Now, I know that's anecdotal, but, you know, it's quite an interesting anecdote. Our survey said, I can't do, there's no point doing surveys and stuff like that because, you know, they're all full of lies anyway. But anyway, that's the anecdotal evidence. Personal evidence is that in the last 5 years, I mean, I've always seen ships. I call them ships because it's quicker than saying UFOs. I mean, a UFO is simply an unidentified flying object. Are they man-made or are they not man-made? 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 Anne-made? Who's Anne? I don't know. Maybe God's wife is called Anne. She works in a pastry shop somewhere in Chipping Norton. Although it's unlikely to be there because Chipping Norton's a pretty dark place, actually. No offence if you live in Chipping Norton. Everywhere's a pretty dark place. I'm not picking on you in particular. I just find Chipping Norton to be quite an amusing English village name. What was I saying? Yeah, UFOs. Unidentified. So I've always seen lights in the sky moving around in ways that known aircraft made by man cannot do. And also satellites cannot do. I mean, satellites cannot speed up, slow down, change direction, go really bright and then really dark. They can't do that according to what we know about them. So anything that operates outside of those parameters is a UFO, or they try to call it UAPs now, but I prefer the term UFO. And I've seen literally thousands of these over the years, just thousands of them. So many. I mean, it's such a regular occurrence that I don't even bat an eyelid. Really. I have recorded a few of these on my channels. So I've got a YouTube channel, I've got, you know, on my website, and you know, I have posted some of these sightings that I've done. There was a couple of really powerful ones this year. I was in the mountains in Spain, and it was about 6 p.m. and we were walking Sierra Nevada mountains, quite high up, about 2,000 feet up, I think. And this pink UFO came across the top of the trees, and it was like not cylindrical, it was more square with two light at either end, and it just very quietly announced its presence, flew across, and I did video of that. There was another time only about 5 or 6 weeks ago where I was staying in a house and my kids were there, and this was in Spain as well, and this light just popped up in the valley, because the house was overlooking a valley towards some mountains, and it literally popped up, and I was sat there. Well, I think I was watching a film, and then I looked up, and there it was, and it was just hovering, and it was a big, beautiful light. And what I heard was, "Come on, get your camera, film me." So I filmed that moving very slowly along. But the big one for me was a few years back, I got a message from a subscriber saying, "You don't know me, but I've been on the ships for 10 years and they know that you look up every night." And that's why I read the email. And then it told me how to connect with a star. And then I did this that night, and this light just appeared above the houses near me. A beautiful big light, moved very slowly. I was just watching it in awe and felt very calm. And then the sky lit up and a big triangular ship appeared in front of me. And it was not a TR-3B, you know, the reverse engineered American or secret space program ship. It wasn't one of those. It was kind of like an animation, is the best way I could describe it. And when I say animation, I mean the light and the colors were different. Similar kind of thing that I experienced on ayahuasca, and something the kind of light that I've only experienced also with the sun, when that has changed in front of me as well. There's a video on Rumble called "Unlocking the 5D Sun," Mark Attwood. If you search for that, you'll find it. When I went to Arbor Low, which is a stone circle in Derbyshire in England, which is at the intersection of 9 ley lines. And it's worth watching that video, because myself and a woman called Gillian England, went there and unblocked these concrete blocks that were on every ley line. And they were inscribed with VR and GR, which is Victoria, Regina and George Rex. And when we unblocked the 10th one, because there was an extra one with GR on, the rest were VR, the sun literally changed in front of me and all these lights came out. And anyway, if you can watch that video, go and watch it. But yeah, this ship that appeared in front of me was triangular with rounded corners, and it was a kind of burnt orange color, and it was covered in black hieroglyphics. Now, I didn't have time to take a picture, write it down, draw it. From memory, I wouldn't get the hieroglyphics right. And I'm only saying hieroglyphics because that's what they reminded me of. And this thing was only there for a couple of seconds, and then it just disappeared. I've used the word interdimensional when describing this ship before, because I can't think of a better way of describing it. I don't know if it is interdimensional or what it was, but it was certainly real. I'd had nothing to drink. I'd had no cannabis or anything like that. I was completely clear. It was about 11 o'clock at night. And another time, a friend of mine and I was stood in her garden, and a light was coming across. This is about 11 o'clock at night as well. Big light was coming across, and I was looking up going, "Oh, look, there's another UFO." But it was really much lower than the usual ones. And as it passed over our head, it looked like a dragon or a phoenix made of light. Huge, 40-foot wingspan, I'm guessing the dimensions, but silently flying, flapping its wings right over our heads. I made another video a few years back called In Search of the Little People. The little people are what the fairies are known as by some people in Ireland. And I went to see an amazing woman in Athlone, and we made a film at her house. And the reason I went to make this film is because she saw elementals coming out of the ground every night, and she called the ships in, and went to film her. There they were, elementals, and then ships moving above our head. She's passed on since, unfortunately. She wanted to be on the ships, and I think that's why she's not here anymore. Lovely lady, Helen. But, I've met tons of people who've experienced these things. So does this mean, am I being tracked and shown holographic ships my entire life? Why would they do that? Who am I? Or are these ships trying to communicate with some people and showing themselves deliberately because there is actual big disclosure coming about the true nature of who we are, which is obviously a massive, massive subject I'm not going to cover in a short video. I think that's true. I think, you know, the other thing that sounds nuts, but it's true, is that, you know, I've been able to call these ships in. Like, I was reading a post this morning, can't remember where from, but they described it as like a dog whistle. And I've been able to do that. I've been able to do that with multiple witnesses and multiple times, where it literally called them in. And I had a reading on this done by a spiritual channeler that I trust impeccably, who's proven herself over many years. And she said it's because of my frequency, they recognize, and they can just appear interdimensionally. So it's not like they travel to, oh, Mark's here, let's fly from Australia. No, they just pop up and show themselves. So, and it's given me a great sense of calmness the majority of the time, although I am a targeted individual and I get attacks from all sorts of technology and demonic realms and stuff like that. But, you know, that's just part of the, that's another subject. I wrote a book on it with Abby Wynn called Weapons of Mass Protection. If you're interested, you can go and find it. So, yeah, to answer the question, personally, I know that we're not alone, and I know we're going to find out a big portion of the truth. And I'll finish this video on saying that because there's also a thing called the disclosure movement, for want of a better word. It's like the truther movement. It's just a blanket term for people that talk about this stuff in you know, online and in real life. And you know, I've kind of tapped into that community a few times over the last 5 years in particular, and you know, I've found some interesting kind of, I don't know, egos, or, you know, I start getting very suspicious of agendas and trusting my own intuition about stuff. And if you do follow the disclosure community, you will see there's lots of spats and falling outs and people being cut off and, you know, etc., etc. And the message I got 4 years ago, sat at this chair actually, was factions. That's the word I kept hearing, factions. And I think that's the issue with the whole disclosure movement, is that there are many factions with different agendas. And I can tell you, I have no agenda apart from searching for the truth. That's all I'm interested in. I want to know why we're here. I want to know why we've gone through all the crap we've gone through. And ultimately, the answer I keep getting to is that it is a spiritual war, and you're here for a reason. And if you are questioning all of the disclosure and all of the, if you think it's all nonsense, you know, it's all part of your spiritual journey. And from that point of view, it's nothing to be afraid of, because you are ultimately an immortal soul or spirit, or whatever terminology you want to use. Therefore, this is part of your growth, and there's no point being afraid, because that just means you have a, I used to say this as a kid in the school ground, I'm an optimist because I have a better time getting there than you do, Mr. Pessimist. And, you know, I am extremely open-minded, but I'm extremely skeptical. And I've learned the hard way that you can't trust everybody. So I'll say this at the end of this video, the same thing that I say to my children and have said to them their entire lives. Question everything, including this. God bless you. Have a lovely day.